This week is a double parsha of Acharei Mot and Kedoshim. Beginning of Parshat Kedoshim, we find the very famous injunction saying, "Speak to the entire assembly of the children of Israel and say to them, you shall be holy, Kedoshim to you, ki kadosh ani Hashem Elokechem, for holy am I, Hashem your God." I'd like to, B'ezrat Hashem, focus in on one very specific question. How do we understand, how do we define what Kedusha is? What is holiness all about? The Mikdash Halevi from London notes very interestingly. He says, at the beginning of the parasha, other Mefarshim note this as well. The first verse, the beginning of the verse says, "Speak to the entire assembly of the children of Israel." Daber el kol adat bnei Israel. And that is in source number 2 to emphasize Laskir ki advarim mufnim el kol adat Yisrael. Lest one think that holiness is left for the righteous, for those who are in elevated position, but simple people do not have the obligation toward holiness. No. Daber kol adat bnei Israel. Each and every one is commanded to be holy. V'kulam mitzuvim v'nidrashim lagia l'madregat hakdusha. We're all commanded to strive and to yearn toward this level of Kedusha. And he says, "V'ketzad omnam yecholim anu kol echad meitanu." How do we, each and every one of us, reach such high levels? And the answer is in the rest of the parsha, by doing mitzvos, having reverence for one's parents, not to steal, not to be a talebearer. All of these mitzvos help us reach Kedusha. He says, and what we learn from the parsha is, Ki b'chdei la'agil l'madregat ha'kedusha, in order to reach these high levels, the end of 3, ein anu tzrichim la'asot ma'asim muflagim, gvohim u'miromim. We don't have to do something which is above and beyond the extraordinary. Oh, mishunim minhag olam, or something that deviates from the normal behavior of the world. No, hahefech hu anachon, the exact opposite. It's specifically dafka idei masim, hapshutim vayom yomim. It's specifically through our everyday encounters. It's specifically through our interactions with normal people. It's through that the Torah ensures us in our relationship with others, in our relationship with God, that we can reach the level of Kedusha. And in fact, the end of the parsha, which we don't always focus in on, it's almost like a sandwich. The end of the parsha in source 4 teaches us, Ushmartem echukotai, when you keep my ordinances, vasitem otam, and you do them, then ani Hashem mikadeshchem, I am Hashem who sanctifies you. The Torah at the end says, if you go through the process of Kedusha, if you work towards sanctifying yourself in doing mitzvos, and obviously, as he points out, with a recognition and understanding, that's not that I'm just being nice, but this is what God commanded me. It's not just I'm a nice person, I don't take revenge, but I understand this is a tzivui abore. I'm doing the will of God. Then ultimately, we have the ability for when we strive toward holiness, that Hashem blesses us with holiness as well. The process begins with us, and it culminates with God being able to lift us up and to bless us. Ani Hashem mikadeshchem. And that's what, in fact, we have in the brachas when we say, Asher kedishanu mitzvosav, that Hashem has sanctified us in His mitzvos. When we're involved in these mitzvos, there's a certain amount of sanctity that comes from above. But we still haven't responded to our question. I understand that the mitzvos themselves lead us to Kedusha. Ultimately, Hashem blesses us with a certain amount of spiritual energy, which brings us to higher levels. But how do we define this aspect of Kedusha? What are we striving toward when we speak about, I want to be a kadosh person? In English, it's translated as a holy person. Now, obviously, there are many responses to this question. I'd like to, with God's help, examine 2 approaches, and in so doing, be able to look at some of the laws in both Parshat Acharei Mot and in Kedoshim, and to see what relevancy they have for our lives. Perhaps the most classic understanding of Kedusha is that which is found in the Ramban. The Ramban, Nachmanides, speaks about a summation. It's found in source number 7 in the Art Scroll Stone Chumash. Ramban maintains that the concept of holiness is not limited to the observance of any particular category of commandments. Rather, it is an admonition that one's approach to all aspects of life be governed by moderation, particularly in the area of what is permitted. In Ramban's memorable phrase, someone who observes only the letter of the law can easily become a naval birshut haTorah, a degenerate with the permission of the Torah. For such a person can observe the technical requirements of the commandments while surrendering to self-indulgence,